Greetings everyone, welcome to Music is a Journey. I'm Peter. This video is a kind of appendage to the previous video that I did about 14 Japanese shoegaze bands. This is part of my Japanese shoegaze series, which was originally intended to be 3 videos. I already had them conceived of and all the notes and plans written down back in May sometime, but since then there have been new albums coming in through the door. Actually, not for the last 2 weeks. However, towards the end of May, there were some albums that came in that I thought were so good, and they didn't fit anywhere in any of the videos that I had planned, so I decided to make a separate video to talk about these 3. So just as a quick recap, the first video I talked about the history of shoegaze music in Japan. In the second video I introduced 14 bands and 14 albums or EPs and played a short 6-minute sample from each of them there. And so in this one here I want to talk about 3 bands, 2 of which I've already spoken about, and the other one was supposed to be in the previous video, but I thought the album was worth mentioning in more detail than just a single 6-second clip from one track. So here we go. The first band that I want to talk about is a band called Plant Cell, who are from Chiba Prefecture, next to Tokyo. They have an interesting thing here, an interesting concept, and I want to read what I read off their website promoting their latest album. They call them, in quotation marks, flower gaze. And maybe I want to, before I read to you what was on the website, this is my impression that I got from the music when I was listening to. So yes, it does have the shoegaze sound with the big volume guitars and also the softer female vocals, which are often difficult to distinguish from the music. That all is very typical in the description of shoegaze. However, after the first 3 tracks, I started to get a feeling from the music that a lot of this music could be suitable for multimedia presentations of nature and landscape photographs. And the reason why I concluded this is because in the 1990s, I used to do that. I'd go around to different clubs, travel clubs, photography clubs, and whatnot, and I would show slide presentations of landscape and nature photographs, and I would also do it to a musical soundtrack. And I had a device where I could, synchronize everything so that as the music played, the device would adjust the timing of the changing of the slides. And I was always on the lookout for music that was very suitable for these landscape and nature slide presentations that I was doing. So as I was listening to a lot of the tracks on here, yes, they do have the loud guitars. There's certainly the shoegaze sound in most of the tracks, but I also had this image of this impression that these would be very suitable tracks for landscape and nature slide presentations, just without the voluminous guitar sound. So this is what I read on their website, and this is after I arrived at my conclusion. It says here that Plant Cell express soundscapes that resemble landscape paintings with flowers, plants, and natural landscapes as subject matter. Wow, so for a band that achieved that concept of their art, I got it. I got it before I knew that that's what they were doing. So I would like to actually go through a few of the tracks on here because I really liked this album. It was unique among all the shoegaze type albums that I picked out. And I loved it so much, I did actually order their 2 other full-length albums. I'm having a problem picking up here. So this one is called Nature Reserve, and it is inspired by the landscapes of Iceland. And then the more recent one is called Botanical. I've actually only listened to each of these once so far, so I don't have any kind of great impression to tell you about them. But this one here really is fantastic. So what I'd like to do is just walk through a few of the tracks. First of all, the very first track, Cyan, I think there's even a video on YouTube for that one here. That actually is a song that I did not, or a track I did not think to include here, but it's been popping into my head randomly throughout the day, various days. But the one I want to play a little sample of is the second track, Nebula, because the opening actually made me think of if Judas Priest had a shoegaze sound. I don't know, what do you think? Listen to a few seconds from Nebula here. Okay, track 4 is called Kjosfossen Elf. And maybe there's some connection to Iceland here too, I think. It actually has this really neat piano melody in it, a very friendly, happy piano melody. And I guess one thing to say about the vocals in here, a lot of the tracks are instrumental, and some of them that do have vocals, they aren't actually singing any lyrics, they are just ahs and I think it's called vocalese, where you sing without actual words. And then some of the songs actually have lyrics, but the lyrics are just repeated. The phrase is just repeated like a musical phrase. And maybe one other thing to point out about the music is it's typically quite simple in structure. They will introduce a chord progression and repeat that, say, like 4 times, and then they will do a different chord progression. And you can think about it like verse and chorus if you like. And they will go back to the first one again, but this time there'll be something a little bit different. They actually use keyboards quite freely, and sometimes they're adding some keyboard to it, or the vocals, which might not have been in the first phrasing of that chord progression, they come in later on. And there's generally also, it goes to a crescendo at some point. And I think also I'd like to point out that I really love the drumming on this, because the drumming is so suitable for the atmosphere of the music. It's never really hard hitting, but there are all these like fills and little, I don't know, like little shuffle beats and so on. It's just very timely and well played out drumming for the next build up to the next crescendo or to the next chord change or whatever. So very, very good. But yeah, Kjosfossen Elf, there's piano, and then track 5, I want to play a sample from this because I love the guitar. This really gives me a countryside landscape feeling when I listen to this. And the title of track 5 sounds more like a definition of a word. It is spirit who dwells on or in a mountain and forest. So it sounds to me that they're thinking of some spirit's name, and they have given the definition instead. So let's play just a short clip of that because I love the guitar. Very simple and beautiful. And of course the guitar does do some different things later on as the track builds to more excitement. They did do another version on the Botanical album here, a remix, and I think this is called the Botanical Shampoo Mix. And they've taken out the guitar. They've replaced it with some bubbly keyboard sound. It was very disappointing. So anyway, moving along, we also have Landscape of Green Lakeside featuring Leila. I don't know who Liela. I don't know who Liela is. But anyway, Landscape of Green Lakeside. I'd like to include a little snippet of that. So let's give that a listen. And track 7 is called Thundercloud. Now, I think they must have really liked Thundercloud because on Nature Reserve, the very first track is after the Thundercloud. And a little later on, track 10 is Thundercloud Reprise. So, reprise? Anyway, they like that Thundercloud track, and so do I. So, I want to play just a little snippet of that. Unfortunately, 6 seconds, like I said before, I can get away with giving 6-second sample. I don't get any copyright claims or strikes or anything like that. But in the case of Plant Cell, they sit on a chord for like a measure or two. It might be like one chord is played over and over, and then it will go up a chord, up a chord, up a chord, and return. So it's difficult to play 6 seconds. I mean, you might just get 6 seconds of one chord going on here. But let's see if I can find a good spot in Thundercloud to share with you. Now, honestly, pretty much every track on this album has its individual charm. There was one Conifer I actually really thought to share, but Conifer is quite musically simple. And again, we've got long passages with not much happening. It's just really relaxing and pleasant. And then in some cases with this big wall of fuzz distortion behind there. But I think in the end I decided to, what did I decide to go with? I forgot what I decided to go with. I think in the end I decided to go with Fall Landscape of Thanksgiving Day. I think that was it. If it's not, I will put the correct title below as I play a sample of the song. So the track, let's listen to it. So there you go, 5 samples from the album Landscape by Plant Cell, and it just search for plantcell.bass or something like this. Again, I was talking about this bass thing in the last video. I don't know if it's a website and then different vendors or bands can have their own spot on the website, like Bandcamp maybe. I'm not sure, but anyway, check it out. I think they might also be on Bandcamp too, actually. But yeah, do check it out. That's Plant Cell. Okay, the next one, I already talked about them in the first video. This is Plastic Girl in Closet, and I bought their first 2 albums, which was Toys and Kokoro. Kokoro shows up on a lot of these lists for recommended albums, and Toy and Kokoro have very strong distorted guitar, but really soft, there's almost a kind of childlike nature to the lyrics, and they've got song titles like Animal Brooch, Black Bear Mug Cup, Pretty New Bag, which I suppose is better than Ugly Old Bag. But just those first 2 albums have this really youthful, childlike sound. The male singer, who is the dominant singer on these ones here, sings in a very high, soft, whispery voice. I think he can get away with it. Not everyone can get away with it. And then there's a female vocalist who's doing more on the second album, the Kokoro album. And there are some great tracks on there. But one thing that I found here, this is Silent Dreams. This is from 2012. I think it's their 3rd album. This has a more mature sound and even darker songs in some of them. Yeah, like, okay, so what I have here, this is a reissue. So good news, there's a reissue. And if you go to Holiday Records, I think it is, or Plastic Girl in Closet.bass, I think you can find it. And they actually have a lot of cassettes too, which I thought was really cool. I almost felt like buying a cassette just to have it. But anyway, this one here, Silent Dreams. So the original album was 10 tracks. And as I said, there's a more mature sound to it and a darker sound. There are moments where it sounds more like the clean electric guitar playing sounds like it could be off some thrash metal band album where they have this slower, clean guitar playing. And some of the electric guitar gets quite heavy. The lyrics are also kind of dark and heavy sometimes. There's one song talking about something, I die and I'm laughing, or I die and I'm tired, or something like this. There's another one that's saying like, he keeps saying, kowayo, which means like I'm scared or it's scary. But then it says something that ends with yo, which means it's directed at somebody else. So maybe it's saying like, you're scary. And then samui yo, which is like cold. So I think he's kind of like saying, you're scary, you're cold. So darker feeling to that. After track 7, we get on to 7 bonus tracks. One is called After the Rain, and this is a light and pretty track, more like what we would have heard on the first 2 albums. And then Sleep in a Deep is a wonderful track. Again, I love this guitar sound, this clean, almost country, like drive in the countryside guitar sound. We've got Kindergarten, and Radio Love, which are actually from, I think, the first album, but they're re-recorded here. And I haven't compared Kindergarten to the original, but Radio Love stood out as a song I liked off the debut. And again, it had this, this kind of childlike, really sweet sound to it. And here, it's the same music and it's the same lyrics and the same melody and everything, but the sound has a bit more of a mature, grown-up feeling to the music. And then the singing also has lost some of that childlike, dreamy feel to it. So I like this version a lot better. Then we have one called Motor Drive, which is another kind of a little bit more punchy type song. And then the last 2, Pianos and New Dawn, these are just studio experimental things where they're doing like backwards recording and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if they really needed to be on here, I guess for fans. But anyway, I'd like to play some of the samples. So first of all, the first 2 songs, Plastic Shoes and Aurora, just a great start to the album. Really, you can hear that this is a different sound than what they were giving us before, but still sounds like Plastic Girl in Closet. But it is track 3, Army March. I'd like to play just a little snippet of that one because this is where we get that clean guitar versus heavy guitar. So let's listen to 6 seconds from Army March. track 4, Ghost Rider. This is, it sounds like they mean like a rider is like a passenger on a train, because there's a kind of train sound to the music, and it's quite exciting. I made a playlist, and it's actually on the phone that's recording this video, so I can't remember what songs I picked, but I am pretty sure I picked Star Sticker as one of the tracks to feature. So we're going to hear 6 seconds from Star Sticker. Now, track 8 is In a Hole, and that is the one track that didn't impress me. I think it's because every track until then did something I didn't expect, and I was getting used to that feeling. And then it starts off like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of these slower ones, the clean guitar ones, and it's going to build into something. And it just kind of goes through like that. It's not very long, but nothing really happens in the track. So I think it's a kind of more intermediary track, like a rest between all the rest of the excitement. It's the only one that doesn't do much for me. But then we get on to Spoon, which is fabulous because they've got this like hand percussion rhythm and this really mean guitar sound. There's several parts I would love to feature, but let's listen to the part. There's a bit of a break and just the hand percussion and the drums are going, and then the guitar comes in. Let's just listen to a bit of that one there. The final track of the original album, Silent Dreams, that's one of those shoegaze types where it's just the strummed acoustic guitar and this wavering electric guitar sound in the background. But I think that was not one I wanted to feature. I think it was actually track 5, Reincarnation, that I wanted to offer a sample of. So let's go back to track 5 and let's hear a little bit from Reincarnation. And finally, Sleep in a Deep, because as I said, I love that clean, almost like country feeling guitar sound. So let's listen to that little bit from Sleep in a Deep. Okay, so that is Silent Dreams by Plastic Girl in Closet, and as I'm saying, I really love this album, except for In a Hole, which I can bypass. Everything else, and the 2 final, bonus tracks, which is just backwards music, pretty much everything else, like out of the 17 tracks on here, 14 of them I am happy to listen to again and again. So the last album I want to talk about is from Kinoko Teikoku, which means Mushroom Empire, and I did talk about them in the first video. At the time, I talked about their debut release, which was a mini album, Uzu ni Naru, and then I talked about their Long Goodbye EP, which came after that. The album after that, and the one that gets most mentioned, is Eureka, and here it is. I sampled it, and I thought, this sounds interesting. I think I want to get it, and I got it, and holy crap, so far this is possibly my favorite or one of my favorite purchases of this year, and I purchased a lot already. So Eureka, I don't like okay, I didn't check her name. I forgot her name again. I'll probably put it on the screen here. I think it's like Chiaki Sato or something. She's got such a cool voice. She really puts a lot of emotion, feeling into what she's singing. And the opening track, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it was called Yotaka or something. It means Nighthawk. Exactly that, Nighthawk. And the song is, lyrically, I think she's looking up at the stars. She's naming Sirius, Vega, Altair, and so on as she's singing. And she's talking about the light from those stars, traveling the light years to reach the Earth. But there are some interesting lines in the song. And actually, I wanted to talk about this one here because I thought it was so interesting. She sings... this is the translation from Japanese, okay? We can only live by killing. I'm suffering from being alive, but the joy of living, it's uncertain, but it's warm. I keep being misled, and I'm still alive. It's a pretty deep song. I imagine that she was walking at night, and actually the Japanese word for this, nighthawk, also has another meaning that was used during the Edo times of people who went out, who walked at night. So I guess there she is at night looking up at the stars and contemplating these things. Now what I like about this, first of all, when she's naming the stars, in the beginning I didn't know what she was saying. It sounded like she was singing in German or Russian almost, the way she was pronouncing the star names. But I looked it up and found, oh, that's what she's singing, Sirius Vega Altair. And yeah, so it's really cool. But there's this background, like there's this clean, very simple guitar, I guess it's a riff, which carries out throughout the song, and there's this background fuzz, but it sounds with a little extra reverb, so it gives it a kind of a spacey feel to it, which is really cool. But the song gets a little intense in a couple of places and gets really loud, and her voice gets more full of emotion and energy. And the second time this happens, you know, in The Lord of the Rings, when Galadriel touches the ring and she suddenly glows and starts like speaking in this demonic voice, she almost sounds like that when she gets it like really heated up in this one part, and the volume of the guitars comes up. It's so cool. This actually, you know, in my third video, I'm going to pick like my 5 favorite shoegaze songs. That selection was made before I got this album. So know that this song could actually be in my top 5. The rest of the album, pretty much everything on here is really cool. The only one that didn't really impress me so much was the second to last track called Musician, and I think it's just because it sounds like a song that could have been off Uzu ni Naru. So it didn't bring anything new to the table, I felt. But if you haven't heard anything else, you might like it. The rest of the tracks are just so cool. There is one here called Haruto Shura. There's actually a book of that title I found out, and she is just singing about like that spring night in 2009 where it was just pouring rain. All she could think about was how she would be able to kill those guys. And it's like not thinking about whether or not it's a crime, but if I have a metal bat that I can use. And in some parts she's singing like, scream, somehow everything is a pain in the ass. The way she sings, it's all in Japanese, right? I mean, mendokusai in Japanese means it's a bother, it's a hassle, but when you sing it as when you say it as mendokusei, it's more like, it's a pain in the ass, right? She's like singing nanka zenbu mendokusei, like somehow everything's a pain in the ass, and it's just she has so much of emotion in her voice, so really, really cool. So I'd like to play a sample actually from also the 4th track, which is Kokudo Slope, which I guess is just like National Route Slope. So let's listen to a clip from that. And then track 5 is Eureka. And that is just so cool. It starts off with this pinging guitar sound. You might imagine like a satellite, and then there's just like, whoa, 2 satellites just crashed. There's just this crashing of guitars and distortion and everything. And she starts singing in this very like haunting tone, and there's this driving bass line behind it. And then at one point it gets really light for a moment, and then it's just bam, chaos again. This track is so cool. It's a strong contender for favorite track off the album. I don't know if it's the Nighthawk one or the Eureka one, but both are fantastic. So let's hear a little bit from Eureka here then. Then after that, there is a song called, what's it called here? I can't see, my eyes are blurring, it's getting late in the day. Fukasuru Kyoshitsu, I think is what it says here. What's fuka? Fuka is like wind change. The classroom of change, I guess, something like that. Really light, pretty song. Pretty, not like beautiful pretty, but she's very contemplative. Like one of the lines is something like, the fishes swimming in the deep sea, come tomorrow, they're all going to die. I think it's something like that. But yeah, and it has this one part also where she's singing la 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 la, la 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 la, but there's this like this la 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 la, la 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 la, you know, and just really nice and very much in contrast to the rest of the album, which is sometimes very energetic and very powerful and very chaotic. And the other track I'd like to play something from is Another World. Now it starts with this really epic, loud beginning, and then goes into acoustic guitar strumming with this simple chime melody. And hearing that, I'm almost ready to imagine David Byron of Uriah Heep from long, long ago starting to sing lyrics about a wizard wandering the countryside or something. So I just want to play a little sample from that as well. So this is Another World, which is actually the only song that is sung in English on the album. Okay, wonderful, wonderful album, Eureka by Kinoko Teikoku. And that's it. Those are the 3 albums I really wanted to feature in length because I love all 3 of them so much. Okay, the next video I do about Japanese shoegaze will be part 3 in this 3-part series. So watch out for that one, although there might be a vinyl community tag video coming in between this one and that one. So yeah, please stay tuned. Watch out for my Japanese shoegaze part 3. Thank you for watching today. Do check out these bands, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care all. Bye.